Hi, everyone. On behalf of the Steering Committee in Latin American and Caribbean Studies at WPI, I'd like to welcome everyone to this Global School virtual event on Latin America and the Caribbean with a focus on sustainability. My name is John Galante. I am a historian of Latin America, and I also teach in the International and Global Studies program in the Humanities and Arts Department at WPI. So this event comes at a great time. It comes precisely when we're launching a minor in Latin American Caribbean Studies here at WPI. We're implementing a number of grant-funded programs and initiatives in faculty research, in new institutional partnerships, engagements with the community in Worcester and beyond. So it's very exciting to welcome you all here today for this event. We have a very, very full agenda over the next roughly 3 hours. We'll start with the Provost, Wole Sobayejo, and Paul Matheson, who are going to introduce WPI's new sustainability plan, and also introduce our plenary speaker, Carlos Nobri. Carlos's talk will be followed by a roundtable discussion of directors of project centers in Latin America and the Caribbean, a number of faculty members at WPI sitting on that round table. That will happen around 2:30 or so, just so you're aware of kind of the schedule if folks have to kind of come in and out. Our final session of the day is going to be a panel discussion with a number of distinguished alumni from WPI who work and are from Latin America and the Caribbean, and are going to address issues related to COVID-19 crisis in the region, and particularly its impacts on the economy and even some social issues as well related to the economic effects of the COVID crisis in the region. So please hang around for that panel as well. That should be happening around 3:20 p.m. or so. We have a couple other really nice things happening throughout the afternoon, some student testimonials from their work at project centers in the region, as well as some highlighting some faculty research as well. One sort of logistical thing is that we will have the Zoom chat moving throughout the session this afternoon. So if you do have questions or comments in relation to anything that you're hearing today, any of the different speakers or panels or participants, please do note those questions in the chat so we can sort of bring them into our discussions as well. So without further ado, I'll turn over sort of the virtual dais to Wole Sobayejo, the provost, who's going to provide an introduction for the first part of our session today.
Thank you very much, John. And thanks to everybody for joining in on this celebration of sustainability and WPI collaborations in Latin America and the Caribbean. Next, please. So for me, it's really a special pleasure to welcome all of you to the third of the virtual events on issues related to our global school. This third event will focus on Latin America and the Caribbean with a special emphasis on the theme of sustainability. And as you know, our goal in our global school effort is to bring together all the key stakeholders, partners, alumni, students, faculty, and staff with interest in our global programs across the world. This particular month, we're focusing on Latin America and the Caribbean, but generally as an institution, our strategy is to use science, technology, and innovation to address global grand challenge problems. And today we'll be focusing on issues related to climate change and the environment, and really what we can do about this in our research, in our education, in our outreach. And we wanna also use this as an opportunity to highlight WPI's sustainability plan for the next few years. Next. So as you look at this, you see that WPI as an institution has chosen the theme of sustainability as a foundational approach, a foundational core value principle for the university. And today we'll have Jeff Solomon, our Chief Financial Officer, and Paul Matheson, the Director of Sustainability, unveil for us the next phase of our sustainability initiatives here at WPI. We'll also be presenting sessions organized by our faculty, staff, and students with foci on sustainability and connections to COVID-19, and really looking at Latin America and the Caribbean as areas of the world in which we have deep interests. And it's a special pleasure for me also to welcome Carlos Nobre, who is our keynote speaker for today, to talk to us about his amazing work in the Amazon. Next. So I sort of would like to show you these beautiful, beautiful pictures of the Amazon, just to kind of share with you one of the environmental gems of the world. And of course, there's so many parts of our climate system, ecosystem that depend on the richness and the natural pristine state of the Amazon, which of course has been decimated by human activities in the past few decades. And so the question that I'd like to tee up with showing you this image is, how does this impact how we as a scientific technological community engage research, not only research that can impact our students, but research that could be part of a global effort to contribute to the solutions. And of course, there are many amazing scientists doing climate science, earth science work. But maybe we also need to think about how we do engineering in the world of the future in a way that might help us to preserve the beauty of the Amazon and many spaces like this across the world. And so I use this as a way of motivating some of what I'm going to show you, which is partly personal and partly institutional. Next, please. So within this context, we at WPI, of course, have more than 50 plus project centers across the world, many in Latin America and some in the Caribbean. And it's interesting to kind of see what the themes are that we focus on. So one of the areas in the area, especially of energy research, is the work of Mike Timko, who looks at sustainable fuels in collaboration with partners in Brazil. And I'm going to also introduce you to some work that we've been doing in my research group on sustainable buildings, again, in collaboration with partners in Brazil and Guadeloupe in the Caribbean. And what I have found in the last 20 years of these collaborations is just tremendous, tremendous opportunity for synergy in ways that really lead to solutions that are truly amazing. And so as we look at our 50 odd project centers, I think these collaborations in Latin America and the Caribbean give us some excitement for really how we can be part of the solution to some of these challenging problems. Next. So I take here the work of Mike Timko and the energy group here at WPI. What we're really looking at is developing the next generation of sustainable fuels and renewable energy of the future. Mike is working with groups in Brazil to develop new kinds of renewable fuels that can go into different kinds of systems. There's also significant work going on in solar energy and the batteries of tomorrow and the recycling within the framework of a circular economy. And so this work is going on with people like Pratap Rao and also folks like Yan Wang and others collaborating with people in a way that's really focused on really sustainable fuels that reduce CO2 emissions to the environment. Next. And as we think about this, again, our focus is on collaborations, this case between Mike Timko's group and the group in Brazil at Unicamp. And this has been a very fruitful collaboration and one that we're hoping to grow in the future. Next, please. And as we look at this, we're looking at how do you go from raw materials and waste to the energy solutions of tomorrow in ways that really think carefully about the systemic impacts driven by science, driven by technology, but ultimately thinking about the environment as we explore these alternatives. Next. And we're looking at kind of this systemic input of feedstock in waste materials and barley bagasse, all the way through to the outputs, driven again by science to really develop the technologies that could enable the sustainable fuels of the future. Next. So in that case, you can see clearly that we here in the US have a lot to benefit from the collaborations with the Brazilians. And in my own case, I have to say that in my travels about 20 years ago, I met a fellow by the name of Khosrow Gavami, who is a well-known person in Brazil who is highly interested in natural materials such as bamboo. I also have met in my time others from Brazil in Homa Savastano at the University of Sao Paulo in Pirassununga, with whom I have collaborated over the last 20 years. Khosrow really inspired us to work on natural materials, and bamboo as a grass is a natural material with remarkable properties. And I had the pleasure of going to collaborate with him in Rio de Janeiro, just as I've worked with Homa Savastano at the University of Sao Paulo and Maria Anjassen in Guadeloupe. Now, what's interesting is not only were these great places to visit, is that actually they inspired me to think differently. Next, please. And so we started to really look at the plants as sources of natural fibers and ways of integrating these natural materials into the construction and development of sustainable materials. Next. And as you begin to do this, you realize that you can develop novel composites inspired by the same mechanics you use to develop aerospace materials that have significant robustness and are eco-friendly. Next, please. And as you do this, you also begin to realize that you can find new value in different materials. And so we actually found that we could develop mushroom composites using fungi to construct on scaffolds, materials that are incredibly robust, that enable us to explore alternatives for the next generation of natural building materials, but also materials for different functions. And as we do this kind of work, what you begin to realize is that there is a lot more available to us for the materials of the future than materials such as cement that cause significant amount of pollution and greenhouse gas emissions. Next. And so this work, of course, also led us to work with Khosrow Gavami, who was crazy about bamboo, to begin to look at the structure of the bamboo and how that contributes to the strength and stiffness and remarkable blend of properties that you get from bamboo. And those of you that know Nima Raba, Nima did his PhD at Princeton before coming here to WPI, working on some of these areas in ways that enabled us to do some interesting bio-inspired design of novel composites. Next. And as you go beyond that, you start studying the structure of bamboo at the nanoscale, and you realize just how many of the properties you get are derived from the organization of these structures in ways that inspire the next generation of composites for multifunctional applications. Next, please. And so thinking about this, I thought, well, this is interesting science, but I tell you, what's come out of this has been a lot more. Students in my research group developed a bamboo bicycle company, Bamboo Bicycle, Boo Bicycles, that now makes and distributes these across the world. This is the most successful bamboo company in the world. Each of these bicycles sells for $5,000 to $8,000. And what inspires people to pay that much is the use of bamboo as a sustainable materials. Others have developed bamboo wind turbines. And it's interesting, we've also played with bamboo power generation systems and bamboo people movers. And in the case of the Brazilians, they've gone from making bamboo airplanes to what is now the third biggest aerospace company in the world, which is Embraer. And so what you realize is that these kinds of natural materials give us a great opportunity to innovate in ways that begin to generate alternatives. The bamboo wind turbine, by the way, is used at the University of Vermont as a supplement to solar power for their street lighting. And this is just only the beginning of a new era that I think will see more and more exciting applications of natural materials, such as bamboo. Next. And in doing this, we've been inspired to think well beyond just the studies of structure and modeling these to really creating aesthetically appealing structures with multifunctional capabilities. I show the image on the right there that seems like a palm tree. It's actually a communications tower with embedded electronics that's embedded with nature. And I think this just gives us a small glimpse of a future in which natural materials could play a role in ways that could also be designed with sustainable ecosystems. Next. And as we think about this, I'd like to just motivate us to think about a world in which materials such as these natural materials, grown in sustainable ways, could be the basis for the development of sustainable infrastructure, with careful thinking about the carbon dioxide emissions and some of the environmental impacts built around this. The tower on your left is the tallest current tower from bamboo structures in Shanghai, China. The tower to your right is the next vision of the next structure, again showing what you can do with natural materials that are eco-friendly. Next. So thinking then about what does this mean for us? So WPI, of course, is a school with a focus on STEM, with a love of global. And we're excited about what we can do with that combination, working as interdisciplinary teams with people from humanities and arts, social sciences and policy, working together with scientists and artists and engineers to think about solutions to global grand challenge problems. In the first two lectures of this series, we had first Robert Langer talk about biomedical grand challenges in October. And then just last month, we had the ambassador from Ghana to the United States, Bafo Adjei-Bawa, come to talk about African Grand Challenge development issues and how we at WPI can partner with Ghana to develop these kind of solutions to these problems. And today, it's a special pleasure to welcome Carlos Nobre to WPI. And Carlos and I met when I served on the UN Secretary General's Scientific Advisory Board. And Carlos will be talking to us about his amazing work in the Amazon and its potential implications for climate change. And I will, of course, be introducing him later. This, of course, is part of a series in which we, the WPI community, will be engaging the world each month at a time. In the coming months, we'll be looking at Middle East, Asia, Oceania, Europe, and the future of work and the worker at the end of this academic year. And in the following year, we'll be starting with a focus on global local. As we do this, we hope that all our stakeholders here at WPI, from our alums to our partners, to our faculty, staff, and students, will really use this as an opportunity to get to see the different parts of the world and really see how we as a community can connect to sustainability and other grand challenge issues. So with that, I'd like to turn this over to Jeff Solomon and Paul Matheson to talk a little bit about the WPI sustainability plan.